Some memories never fade. They have fur, bright eyes, and the gift of loving us without saying a word. Because every dog carries a story, and maybe a part of yours. Get ready to discover more than a breed. Discover a lifelong companion.
The truth about Pitbulls, from America's sweetheart to public enemy. It was 1903, and little Helen Keller, blind and deaf since 18 months old, was embracing her new companion for the first time. The dog, with powerful jaws and broad chest, gently rested his head on the girl's lap, while she explored with her hands every detail of his face. Sir Thomas, as he was named, was a pit bull. And for almost a decade, he would be the eyes Helen never had, the silent protector that Anne Sullivan herself described in letters as the most unlikely and perfect guardian angel God could send. In the 1920s and 1930s, a four-legged star dominated American movie screens. Petey, the dog with a black circle around his eye, protected the Little Rascals gang in over 220 films. Parents across America took their children to the movies without fear, without hesitation, to watch that pit bull play, protect and educate children on screen. It was unthinkable to question the safety. Petey was as reliable as the sun rising in the morning. During World War I, a pedigreeless, nameless pit bull wandered through training camps in Connecticut. The soldiers called him Stubby. In 18 months of combat in France, Stubby saved his regiment from mustard gas attacks, captured a German spy single-handedly, and located wounded soldiers in no man's land. He returned home as the most decorated dog in American military history, Sergeant Stubby, complete with medals, parades, and meetings with 3 American presidents. But something changed. At some point between those golden decades and today, the dog that was a symbol of American courage, trusted nanny, war hero, transformed into the urban nightmare we know. Headlines scream about attacks. Entire cities have banned the breed. Insurance companies refuse policies. Shelters euthanize them by the thousands. How did a breed adored by Helen Keller and celebrated by Hollywood become America's most feared monster? The transformation didn't happen overnight. It was a perfect storm of events, decisions, and yes, real tragedies that completely rewrote a breed's narrative. But within this story exists something the media rarely tells. The numbers that don't add up, the buried studies, the silenced voices of geneticists, veterinarians, and behaviorists who paint a drastically different reality from what we consume daily. The term pitbull itself is one of the biggest sources of confusion in this debate. Technically, there is no breed called pitbull. It's an umbrella term encompassing at least 4 distinct breeds: American Pit Bull Terrier, American Staffordshire Terrier, Staffordshire Bull Terrier, and American Bully. But in bite statistics, in banning laws, in sensationalist headlines, any muscular dog with a broad head becomes a pit bull. Studies show that even professionals misidentify them in 60% of cases. Dr. Karen Overall, veterinary behaviorist at the University of Pennsylvania, spent 20 years studying canine aggression. Her conclusions, published in respected scientific journals but ignored by popular media, are disturbing. Not for what they reveal about pit bulls, but for what they expose about ourselves. "We created the monster we needed to exist," she wrote in 2019, "to avoid facing more uncomfortable truths about violence, poverty, and human responsibility." The official numbers seem damning at first glance. Pit bulls appear at the top of fatal attack statistics. But researchers who delved deeper into this data discovered statistical manipulations that would make a politician blush. When mixed-breed dogs attack, they're classified by appearance. When the breed is unknown, but the dog is muscular, pit bull. When the victim or witness is under stress, pit bull. A 2013 study showed that when reporters called to verify breed after attacks, they discovered misidentification in 87% of cases where pit bull was reported. Meanwhile, something curious happens away from the spotlight. In children's hospital therapy units, pit bulls work quietly. In prisoner rehabilitation programs, where men convicted of violent crimes train dogs, pit bulls are specifically chosen for their capacity to forgive, to trust again, to offer unconditional love after lives of abuse. Veterans with PTSD swear their Pitbulls saved their lives, not through dramatic heroism, but through something deeper. There's a secret about Pitbulls that the insurance industry doesn't want you to know. A study that cost millions and took 10 years to complete. Originally commissioned to justify higher premiums, it ended up shelved when results didn't confirm expectations. But a whistleblower leaked the data in 2018. What this study revealed about the true nature of Pitbulls, about who's really behind the attacks, and about a conspiracy of silence involving much more than just dogs, will forever change how you see not just this breed, but the entire system that created and perpetuates their demonization. The leaked study, known internally as Project Breed Risk Assessment, was funded by a consortium of America's largest insurance companies between 2008 and 2018. The goal was simple: create an irrefutable scientific basis to justify refusing coverage or increasing premiums for owners of certain breeds. Researchers analyzed 47,000 reported bite cases, cross-referenced data with veterinary records, police histories, and even satellite images of incident locations. What they discovered was so contrary to expectations that the study never saw the light of day. First explosive finding: in 68% of fatal attacks attributed to Pitbulls, there was no veterinary documentation confirming the animal's breed. Identification came from police reports, where officers without training in canine breed identification made assumptions based on appearance. More disturbing still, when DNA was retroactively tested in 150 cases where physical evidence still existed, only 21% were actually pure Pitbulls or predominant mixes. Most were mixes of Labrador, Boxer, Mastiff, and other large breeds. The second finding changed everything. The most predictive factor of a fatal attack wasn't breed, it was zip code. Postal codes with average income below $35,000 annually had 7 times more fatal attacks, regardless of breed. But here's the statistical trick. In these areas, any large mixed breed dog was automatically classified as Pitbull-type dog in reports. In wealthy neighborhoods, the same dog would be described as mixed breed, or identified by its more socially acceptable breed. Dr. James Serpell, director of the Center for Animal Interaction at the University of Pennsylvania, was among the researchers. His specialty for 30 years had been canine aggression. What he discovered in the project data made him rethink his entire career. "We realized we were measuring poverty, not breed dangerousness," he confided to the whistleblower. Uncared for dogs, unsocialized, kept chained, used for protection in violent areas, these were the common denominators. Breed was practically irrelevant when we controlled for socioeconomic conditions. But the most shocking finding came from media analysis. Researchers discovered that attacks involving identified Pitbulls were 5,800% more likely to become national news than attacks by other breeds. A golden retriever killed a child in Maine in 2012. 3 local newspapers covered it. An alleged Pitbull moderately injured an adult in California the same year. 247 media outlets reported it, including CNN and Fox News. The cycle fed itself. More coverage created more fear created more misidentifications created more inflated statistics. War veteran Marcus Thompson knows this reality intimately. Diagnosed with severe PTSD after 3 tours in Afghanistan, he attempted suicide twice in 2015. That's when he met Bella, a pit bull rescued from a fighting ring in Detroit. "Doctors pumped me full of meds for 2 years, Marcus recounts. "Bella cured me in 2 months. She knew when flashbacks were coming before I did. She'd lie on my chest, grounding me in the present. Saved my life more times than I can count." The Pause for Life program at California State Penitentiary places men convicted of violent crimes to rehabilitate pit bulls considered beyond saving. The recidivism rate among participants is 0%. Not a single participant in 12 years returned to crime after release. Jason Martinez, convicted of homicide at 19, is now a certified trainer. "People look at me and see a killer. They look at my dog and see a killer. But it was exactly this mutual understanding that saved us. We both needed a second chance that nobody wanted to give." The underground rodeo industry, discovered in the 80s, that Pitbulls had a unique characteristic: extremely high pain threshold combined with obsessive desire to please humans. This made them perfect for blood sport. Not because they were naturally aggressive. On the contrary, pit bulls that attacked humans were eliminated from breeding programs. They needed dogs that would accept any abuse from their handlers without fighting back. The supreme tragedy: their unconditional loyalty became their condemnation. Data from the American Temperament Test Society is consistently ignored by media. In standardized temperament tests, pit bulls score 87.4% pass rate, golden retrievers 85.6%, beagles 80.3%, chihuahuas 69.6%. But these numbers don't sell newspapers, don't justify laws, don't feed the fear cycle that keeps audiences captive and politicians elected. The inconvenient truth is that pit bulls consistently test as one of the most stable and predictable breeds when properly socialized. If you have a dog, any dog, and have ever felt the weight of public judgment, you know a fraction of what pit bull owners face daily. Mothers cross the street with their children, neighbors make petitions, veterinarians refuse treatment. But somewhere right now, a pit bull is lying at the feet of an autistic child, being the anchor that keeps them connected to the world. Somewhere, a veteran is sleeping for the first time in months because their pit bull is standing guard against the invisible demons of PTSD. If these stories resonate with you, share this video. Because the truth about pit bulls isn't just about dogs, it's about second chances, about looking beyond appearances, about questioning narratives sold to us as absolute facts. To understand how we got here, we need to go back to the beginning. Not to the beginning of fear, but to the beginning of the breed. The ancestors of pit bulls came to America with English and Irish immigrants in the 19th century. They were farm dogs, bred to manage bulls and pigs, work that required courage, strength, and crucially absolute control and obedience to human commands. A dog that didn't distinguish between animal and human was immediately eliminated. Human safety was always priority number one in breeding. In Victorian England, these dogs had another name: Nanny Dogs. Photographs from the era show children of all social classes posing proudly with their sturdy guardians. Our Dogs magazine from 1894 described, "No breed surpasses the bull terrier in devotion to children. Their patience is inexhaustible, their vigilance tireless." Families left babies alone with these dogs while working in the fields. It was unthinkable that they would hurt a child. It was literally against their genetic programming. The turn began subtly in the 1970s. Sports Illustrated published a cover in 1987 that would change everything. A snarling pit bull with the headline, "Beware of this dog." The article inside was balanced, but nobody reads beyond headlines. It was the beginning of an image transformation that would make pit bulls status symbols in the criminal world. Ironically, criminals chose them exactly for their loyalty and trainability. The same characteristics that made them perfect nannies now made them perfect weapons. Michael Vick didn't invent dog fighting, but his case in 2007 exploded the anti-pit bull narrative to unprecedented levels. What the media rarely reported: of the 51 dogs rescued from his operation, 47 were successfully rehabilitated. Many became therapy dogs. Cherry Garcia, one of the most abused, now comforts child victims of violence. But these redemption stories don't sell. The public wanted blood, monsters, confirmation of their fears. Dr. I. Lair Brisbane, from the University of Georgia, spent decades studying canine bite force. His discovery should have ended one of the most persistent myths about pit bulls. There is no locking mechanism in pit bull jaws, he published in multiple scientific journals. Their cranial anatomy is identical to any other domestic dog. Bite force is average for their size, less than German Shepherds, Rottweilers, even Labradors. But facts don't compete with ingrained fear. The cultural transformation of pit bulls mirrors deeper social anxieties. In the 80s and 90s, with urban crime panic at its peak, pit bulls became convenient scapegoats. Politicians discovered that breed-specific legislation, BSL, was easy votes. It seemed like decisive action against violence without needing to address real causes like poverty, lack of education, or inequality. Denver banned pit bulls in 1989. Since then, dog bites haven't decreased. Only the breeds at the top of statistics changed. Laura Handley, attorney specializing in animal legislation, has represented hundreds of families fighting BSL. I've seen 80-year-old grandmothers have gentle dogs confiscated and euthanized because a neighbor reported them. I've seen autistic children lose their service dogs. I've seen veterans with PTSD beg for their companions. And for what? Cities with BSL aren't safer. It's security theater, not real security. The fear algorithm works like this. An attack happens, media reports breed, correct or not, public shares with outrage, politicians propose laws, laws create more abandonment, abandoned dogs without socialization attack more, cycle restarts. Meanwhile, responsible breeders give up, leaving production to puppy mills and backyard breeders who perpetuate genetic and behavioral problems. It's self-fulfilling prophecy of the worst kind. Longitudinal studies from countries that implemented and then repealed BSL are revealing. The Netherlands banned Pitbulls in 1993 and repealed in 2008 after data showed zero reduction in attacks. Italy followed in 2009. Both countries now focus on responsible owner laws, heavy fines for loose dogs, mandatory socialization, criminal accountability for negligence. Attacks decreased significantly. Breed was a smokescreen. Human responsibility was always the real problem. But there's an even darker side to this story. Organizations that benefit financially from perpetuating the Pitbull myth. Groups that raise millions in donations, saving people from dangerous pitbulls. Politicians who build careers on fear. Media that discovered Pitbull in the title increases clicks by 680%. The fear industry is too profitable to let facts interfere. And at the center of it all, dogs that just wanted to please their humans pay the ultimate price. The fear industry has faces and names. Colleen Lynn, founder of dogsbite.org, built a media empire after being bitten by a dog in 2007. Her site, religiously cited by media and legislators, never mentions that she has no training in veterinary science, animal behavior, statistics, or any relevant field. Independent analyses of her data revealed gross manipulations, counting the same incident multiple times, including bites from clearly non-pitbull dogs, even citing fictional cases from satire sites as real. While Lynn profited from lectures and consulting, Donna Reynolds and Tim Racer founded Bad Rap in Oakland, California. They took the pitbulls nobody wanted, the scarred, the traumatized, those considered irredeemable. In 20 years, they rehabilitated over 1,000 dogs, success rate 94%. Their graduates now work as therapy dogs in children's hospitals, assistants for autistic children, companions for elderly in nursing homes. Each success is meticulously documented, but rarely makes news. The case of Johnny Justice illustrates the chasm between perception and reality. Rescued from Michael Vick's operation with scars covering 70% of his body, he was declared extremely dangerous by initial evaluators. Today, Johnny works at the San Francisco Public Library in the Pause to Read program, where children with reading difficulties practice reading to him. His handler, Chris Cohen, observes, "Children who can't read to adults for fear of judgment relax completely with Johnny. He survived the worst humans can do and still chooses to love. The children feel that." Dr. James Hay, professor of animal psychology at the University of Washington, conducted the most comprehensive study on behavioral genetics in pit bulls. Analyzing DNA from 459 dogs and correlating with extensive behavioral tests, he discovered something revolutionary. There is no aggression gene specific to the breed. What we found were genes for determination and athleticism, he explains. They're neutral characteristics. A determined border collie herds obsessively. A determined pit bull does whatever you train it to do obsessively. The Montreal tragedy of 2016 exposes the fundamental flaw in appearance-based legislation. After a woman was killed by a dog, the city banned pit bulls. Later investigation revealed the dog was a registered boxer. But the law was already passed, thousands of innocent dogs condemned. Christiane Vadnais, the victim, was ironically an animal rights activist. Her family begged to repeal the law in her memory, arguing she would be horrified being used to justify the death of innocent animals. they were ignored. Best friends. Animal Society spent $5 million on a radical experiment. What if we took the worst possible cases and scientifically documented every step of rehabilitation? The Victory Project followed 22 of Michael Vick's most traumatized dogs for 10 years. Results: 20 of the 22 lived normal lives in homes. The collected data revolutionized rehabilitation protocols worldwide. But when they tried to publish in mainstream journals, they were repeatedly rejected. Doesn't align with established narrative, one editor admitted off-record. The most curious phenomenon is selective breed amnesia. Sergeant Stubby, the most decorated war dog in American history, has a bronze statue in the Smithsonian. Petey from the Little Rascals is in Hollywood's Hall of Fame. Both were Pitbulls. But identifying plaques have been quietly altered over the years to remove references to breed. History is literally being rewritten to maintain the modern myth. Euthanasia rates tell the darkest story. Pitbulls represent 6% of the American canine population, but 40% of dogs euthanized in shelters. Not for behavior, the vast majority never showed aggression. It's pure appearance. Shelters report a depressing phenomenon. The same dog adopted quickly if listed as Labrador mix waits months if honestly identified. Some shelters started breed-blind policy, describing personality, not appearance. Adoptions increased 300%. The final paradox: the more we demonize pit bulls, the more attractive they become to exactly the wrong people. Insecure men wanting to look tough, criminals wanting a four-legged weapon, irresponsible breeders seeing quick profit opportunity. Meanwhile, responsible families who would give perfect homes are discouraged by stigma. It's a vicious cycle that ensures negative prophecies self-fulfill. If you've ever judged someone by appearance and later discovered you were completely wrong, you understand the tragedy of modern pit bulls. If you've ever witnessed injustice but felt powerless to change dominant narrative, you know the frustration of millions of responsible owners. Knowledge is power, and now you know truths that most ignore. Share with someone who needs to hear. Because every mind changed is potentially a life saved, human and canine. Sometimes, the most powerful revolution begins with a single conversation that challenges everything we thought we knew. Changes begin with courageous people confronting the system. In 2019, the Austin, Texas Municipal Shelter made a radical decision: stop labeling dogs by breed. Instead, each dog would receive individual behavioral evaluation and be presented by personality. In 18 months, euthanasias fell 89%. Dogs previously condemned by appearance found homes in days. The program spread to 47 American cities, saving tens of thousands of lives. The science behind pit bull behavior is fascinating and consistently misinterpreted. Dr. Jessica Heckman, geneticist at MIT and Harvard's Broad Institute, mapped genomes of 2,000 pit bulls. Her central discovery: behavioral variation within the breed is greater than between breeds. Statistically, knowing a dog's breed tells you almost nothing about its future behavior. Breeding, socialization, and individual experiences are infinitely more predictive. The case of Popsicle illustrates wasted potential. Found nearly dead in a freezer during a police raid on a fighting ring, he was rehabilitated and became one of the most decorated detection dogs in US Customs. In his career, he detected over 3,000 pounds of drugs, valued at $140 million. Federal agents describe him as tireless, accurate, gentle with humans. The same dog society would discard as irreparably violent was protecting American borders. Child therapists discovered something remarkable about rehabilitated pit bulls. Dr. Francine Dolins, working with severely abused children, noticed a pattern. Children who didn't respond to other therapy dogs connected instantly with rescued pit bulls. It's mutual recognition of overcome trauma, she theorizes. These children look into the eyes of a scarred pit bull and see a reflection of their own journey. Healing becomes bilateral. The myth of sudden aggression in pit bulls was definitively debunked by a 15-year longitudinal study at the University of Florida. Researchers followed 385 pit bulls from birth to death, documenting every behavioral incident. Conclusion: 0 cases of aggression without clear prior signs. All serious incidents were preceded by months or years of signs ignored by owners. Pitbulls are actually more predictable than most breeds, concluded Dr. Kerry Rodriguez. They telegraph discomfort extensively before escalating. The economics of prejudice is revealing. Pitbull owners pay on average 40% more in homeowners insurance when they can get it. Many are forced to lie about breed or forego coverage. Veterinarians report price discrimination. Trainers charge invented risk fee. But here's the irony. Real actuarial data shows claims involving pitbulls aren't statistically different from other similar-sized breeds. It's a fear tax, not real risk. Theodore Roosevelt, 26th American president, had a pitbull named Pete. The dog lived in the White House, played with diplomat children, appeared in official state photos. Letters from the era describe Pete as four-legged gentleman who received dignitaries with impeccable grace. Today, Pete would be banned from 886 American cities simply for existing. What changed wasn't the breed, it was our collective perception. Prison programs with pit bulls reveal deep truths about nature versus nurture. At Rikers Island, men serving time for violent crimes trained pit bulls rescued from abusive situations. Guards initially resisted, predicting disaster. Instead, violence in the ward decreased 71%. One inmate explained, "For the first time in my life, something looks at me without judging my past. Only sees who I choose to be today. How can I not return that chance?" Emergency veterinarians have unique perspective on real versus perceived canine aggression. Dr. Michael Santos, with 25 years treating bites in NYC, keeps meticulous records. Most severe bites I've treated? Cocker Spaniels, Dachshunds, Chihuahuas. But when a pit bull bites, even superficially, it becomes a police case. Same bite from Golden Retriever is unfortunate accident. It's pure bias, not based on actual medical severity. The transformation is happening, city by city, person by person. Progressive insurance companies begin basing policies on individual behavior, not breed. Residential complexes abandon breed restrictions in favor of temperament tests. Brave celebrities show their beloved pit bulls, normalizing what millions already know. They're just dogs that want love, purpose, family. The tide is turning, but needs every voice, every story, every person willing to question what they were taught to fear. Among these voices of change, some stories transcend statistics. Rebecca Corrie, comedian and activist, adopted Angel, a pit bull found with broken jaw, fractured ribs and chemical burns covering 60% of her body. Veterinarians suggested compassionate euthanasia. Rebecca refused. 18 months later, Angel became a certified therapy dog, visiting children's hospitals where her survival story inspires children facing painful treatments. She holds no grudges, Rebecca observes. After everything humans did, she still believes we're mostly good. The pit bull and child phenomenon deserves special analysis. Contradicting popular narrative, pit bulls consistently demonstrate extraordinary patience with children. Dr. Stanley Coren documented that pit bulls tolerate ear-pulling, clumsy hugs, and personal space invasions from children 73% longer than average canine before showing stress signs. It's no coincidence they were chosen as nannies in the Victorian era. The tolerance is literally in their DNA. But here lies modern tragedy. This same tolerance makes them perfect victims. Because they don't growl or bite at first sign of abuse, cruel people can hurt them extensively before provoking reaction. When they finally react after extreme provocation, it becomes headline of unprovoked attack. Dr. Sophia Yin, before her untimely death, documented hundreds of these cases. "They're victims of their own gentle nature," she wrote. "Other dogs would have reacted much sooner." The neurological component is fascinating. MRI scans of pit bulls show increased activity in the prefrontal cortex when interacting with humans, the area responsible for emotional control and decision-making. It's literally the opposite of impulsive snap. They think before acting, sometimes too much. Police handlers report that pit bulls often hesitate to bite even when commanded, needing repeated confirmation that it's really necessary. The story of Hector, another Michael Vick survivor, defies all expectations. Used as a bait dog and defenseless dog used to train fighters, he arrived at the shelter with over 200 scars. Behaviorists predicted severe aggression based on trauma. Instead, Hector became one of the gentlest dogs ever documented. Today, he works with special needs children in Minnesota. His handler notes, "It's as if every kindness he shows is his way of proving the cycle of violence can be broken." Scandinavian countries, known for progressive evidence-based policies, lead global change. Norway repealed BSL in 2004 after data showed ineffectiveness. They implemented instead mandatory education for all large dog owners, regardless of breed. Result: 64% reduction in serious bites in 10 years. Sweden followed similar model. The message is clear: educate humans, don't discriminate against dogs. The self-fulfilling prophecy factor is scientifically documented. A 2020 study showed that Pitbull owners, constantly warned about danger of their dogs, demonstrate elevated anxiety levels during walks. Dogs, reading stress signals from their humans, become more alert and reactive. It's a vicious cycle. Social fear creates human tension, which creates defensive canine behavior, which confirms social fear. When owners were educated about this and learned relaxation techniques, behavioral incidents fell 78%. Service organizations discovered inconvenient truth. Pit bulls excel as service dogs for PTSD exactly because they're hyper-attentive to human emotions. Their need to please, combined with high emotional intelligence, makes them extraordinarily effective at detecting and interrupting panic attacks, flashbacks, dissociation. But many veterans are denied access to these life-saving dogs due to housing restrictions. It's double cruelty, denying the veteran the most effective treatment, denying the dog noble purpose. Generational change is happening. Surveys show millennials and Gen Z are 340% less likely to discriminate by canine breed than previous generations. They grew up with internet, where videos of gentle pit bulls went viral, contradicting mainstream narrative. For them, judging dog by appearance is as archaic as other prejudices society is overcoming. They're the ones filling shelters specifically looking for pit bulls, seeing adoption as act of social justice. If you've ever been judged unfairly, if you know the weight of carrying undeserved stigma, you understand the daily journey of every pit bull and their owner. But real change happens when we transform empathy into action. Next time you hear someone repeat myths about pit bulls, you have knowledge to gently correct. When you see a pit bull on the street, a smile instead of fear can change someone's day. Small acts of social courage add up. Share this video with someone who needs to see beyond headlines, because every person who learns the truth is one step closer to justice for a breed that only wanted to love us unconditionally. This wave of change finds its hardest battle in municipal shelters. Sarah McLaughlin, shelter director in Phoenix for 15 years, keeps a statistic that haunts her. Every day at 5 p.m. we make the list. Healthy, gentle pit bulls that passed all behavioral tests, but whose time is up. We euthanize perfect dogs while people adopt puppies from pet shops. It's the part of my job that makes me question humanity. The pit bull shuffle is unofficial practice in shelters nationwide. Staff creatively relabeling pit bulls as boxer mix or lab blend to save lives. It's technically fraud, legally questionable, ethically complex. But when the alternative is certain death by appearance, many choose the lie that saves over the truth that kills. An anonymous staffer confesses, "I saved 400 lives in 3 years, changing one word on forms. I sleep peacefully." Social media created unforeseen phenomenon. Accounts like a Pitbulls of Instagram, 3 million followers, show daily reality that traditional media ignores. Pitbulls sleeping with babies, failing spectacularly as guard dogs from excess love, wearing tutus at birthday parties. Each post normalizes what millions already know. Comments reveal pattern. "Changed my mind completely" appears hundreds of times daily. The court case that could change everything is happening now in Michigan. Digger, a certified service pit bull, was confiscated despite zero history of aggression, simply for existing in a city with BSL. His owner, a veteran with severe PTSD, attempted suicide after separation. ACLU took the case, arguing BSL violates Americans with Disabilities Act. If they win, it will create precedent that effectively ends breed bans nationwide. Harvard Business School research revealed shocking economic discrimination. They sent identical rental applications, changing only dog breed. Applications mentioning Pitbulls were rejected 87% of the time. Golden Retrievers, 11%. When confronted, landlords openly admitted, it's not about the dog, it's about liability insurance. Insurance companies created effective redlining, forcing discrimination through economic pressure. Neuroscience of trauma in rescued Pitbulls offers insights about resilience that transcend species. Dr. Mark Beekoff documented extraordinary phenomenon. Severely abused Pitbulls show exceptional neuroplasticity, literally rewiring brains for trust after trauma. They teach us that love can rewrite neural circuits damaged by violence, he observes. It's a profound lesson about healing capacity that traumatized humans need to hear. Celebrities breaking silence make measurable difference. When Jon Stewart, Jessica Biel, Kaylee Cuoco post about their Pitbulls, local shelters report immediate spike in adoption applications. But it's Kevin Bacon who went furthest. Funded study proving celebrity presence validating Pitbulls increases adoptions by 400% for 6 months. If my fame can save innocent lives, he said, it would be immoral not to use it. The Pitbull paradox intrigues sociologists. Same people who advocate for social justice, who understand dangers of racial profiling, frequently accept canine breed discrimination without question. Dr. Bronwyn Dickey, author of Pitbull Battle Over American Icon, spent 7 years documenting disturbing parallels. It's Rorschach test for our prejudices, she concludes. What we see in the Pitbull reveals more about us than about them. Legislative changes accelerate. In 2020, Colorado repealed 30 years of BSL after data showed increase in attacks during Prohibition. Utah, Nevada, and Washington followed. Each repeal is accompanied by same pattern. Fierce initial resistance, predictions of chaos, then nothing. Attacks don't increase, sky doesn't fall. Life continues, except now families aren't destroyed by their dog's appearance. The final truth about Pitbulls may be simpler than all debate suggests. They're dogs. Neither demons nor angels, just dogs wanting what all dogs want. Love, purpose, belonging. Our obsession with making them symbols of evil or good may be the real problem. Maybe when we learn to see them as individuals, not as representatives of larger narrative, we'll finally do justice to a breed that paid too high a price for human sins. Seeing them as individuals means knowing their stories. Like Daddy, Cesar Millan's Pitbull, who defied all stereotypes for 16 years on global TV. Daddy worked with America's most aggressive dogs, never showing aggression. When he died in 2010, tributes came from 47 countries, but media that extensively covered his death carefully avoided mentioning his breed. The dog who proved Pitbull's capacity for peace was stripped of his identity to keep narrative intact. The genetic component deserves deep scrutiny. Dr. Clive Wynne from Arizona State University conducted groundbreaking study comparing DNA of 1,000 aggressive Pitbulls with 1,000 gentle ones. Result left scientific community silent. Zero significant genetic difference. The only thing encoded in their genes is musculature and determination, he published. Aggressiveness is 100% product of experience, not nature. Anyone saying otherwise is ignoring science for agenda. Entire industries depend on the Pitbull myth. Companies producing anti-Pitbull collars, Pitbull repellent sprays, even apps alerting about Pitbulls in neighborhood. It's a 180 million annual market built on manufactured fear. When Ontario repealed BSL in 2023, lobbyists from these industries spent $3 million trying to reverse decision. Leaked documents revealed strategy, plant false attack stories, pay experts to testify. Fear is lucrative business. Rachel Kaplan, sociology professor at Yale, spent 5 years embedded in Pitbull owner communities. Her surprising conclusion: "It's one of the most united and mutually supportive communities I've studied. United by shared experience of discrimination, they created support networks rivaling civil rights movements. They exchange friendly vets, lawyers to fight BSL, even Underground Railroad to evacuate dogs from cities with bans. The rescue dog factor adds complex layer. Estimates suggest 70% of Pitbulls in homes today were rescued, compared to 20% for other breeds. Their owners actively chose the hardest path, adopting stigmatized, often traumatized dog, knowing challenges ahead. Psychologists identify unique profile: high empathy, strong sense of justice, willingness to fight for underdog. They're people who see themselves in the rejected," observes Dr. Patricia McConnell. Veterans form fascinating subgroup of Pitbull owners. Estimated 23% of veterans with PTSD specifically choose Pitbulls. Jake Morrison, Marine with 3 tours in Iraq, explains, "We were both trained for violence, judged by appearance, discarded when no longer useful. My Pitbull understands war trauma better than any therapist. We save each other daily." The Pitbull Underground Railroad is real and active. When Denver began mass confiscations, Secret Network evacuated 3,000 Pitbulls to safe cities. Volunteers drove at night, using elaborate routes to avoid checkpoints. Falsified documents saying lab mix saved hundreds. It's civil disobedience that saved lives. Technological resistance against unjust law. Participants risked fines, even arrest. "Worth every risk," said anonymous organizer. "It's Canine Schindler's List." Analysis of 30 years of CDC data on canine fatalities reveals ignored pattern. 94% involved unneutered dogs, 87% kept chained, 81% without adequate socialization, 76% in homes with domestic violence history. Breed was only factor without significant statistical correlation when other factors were controlled. But this data gets buried on page 47 of reports nobody reads beyond executive summary. The DNA My Dog movement is quietly revolutionizing debate. Thousands discovering their Pitbulls are actually mixes of boxer, lab, even poodle. Conversely, dogs never suspected revealing significant Pitbull heritage. Jamie Collins thought she had pure lab until DNA revealed 62% Pitbull. "Nothing changed except my perception," she reflects. "Same dog, same gentle temperament. But now I face discrimination that lab privilege spared me. It was brutal education about prejudice." If you've ever fought against unfair stereotype, if you know exhaustion of constantly proving your worth against ingrained prejudices, you understand the daily battle of every Pitbull owner. But here's powerful truth. Every positive interaction, every broken stereotype, every changed mind matters. Revolution happens one conversation at a time. When we share truth instead of fear, we save lives, canine and human. Next time you see post perpetuating myths about Pitbulls, you have knowledge and stories to respond. Use them, because silence in face of injustice is complicity, and these dogs deserve courageous voices speaking truth to power. Speaking truth to power has consequences. Christina Rinaldi, Executive Director of Detroit Dog Rescue, received death threats after campaign showing Pitbulls as family dogs. "They said I was putting children in danger," she recalls. Ironically, the threats came from humans, not from the dogs supposedly dangerous. She persisted. Today, Detroit is national model for responsible adoption based on behavior, not appearance. The year 2023 marked quiet turning point. For first time in 40 years, more cities repealed BSL than implemented. Insurance Institute for Public Safety, same organization that helped create Original Panic, published historic retraction. 30 years of data show breed-specific legislation hasn't reduced bite incidents in any studied jurisdiction. We recommend focus on irresponsible owners, not specific breeds. It took 3 decades and countless lives lost to admit error. Inside university laboratories, scientific revolution is documenting the impossible. Abused Pitbulls show forgiveness capacity that defies established psychological models. Dr. Gregory Burns, neuroscientist at Emory, scanned brains of 43 Pitbulls rescued from fighting rings. He expected to see permanent trauma, hyperactivated fear circuits. Instead, activity in brain's reward center increased 300% with gentle human presence. After everything they suffered, they still choose hope over fear. Its profound lesson about nature of forgiveness. The Gen Z Pitbull revolution is rewriting rules through TikTok and Instagram. Young breeders show complete process, genetic selection for temperament, socialization from birth, positive training. Radical transparency is creating new generation of pitbulls that even skeptics can't criticize. Madison Torres, 22, has 4 million followers watching her breed pitbulls for the future. Each puppy is documented for 2 years, proving long-term stability. Corporations begin to realize cost of discrimination. Petco and PetSmart eliminated breed restrictions in 2022 after internal studies showed loss of 40 million annually from pitbull customers. Amazon stopped selling anti-pitbull products after viral campaign. State Farm, America's largest home insurer, announced end to canine breed discrimination after real actuarial analysis. Money talks when morality fails. The most touching phenomenon is pitbull bucket lists going viral. Owners of elderly or terminally ill pitbulls creating final lists. See the ocean, eat ice cream, meet children they saved. Entire communities mobilized to fulfill wishes. When Meatball, 14-year-old pitbull with cancer, wanted to meet 100 friends, 3,000 people showed up. Each story humanizes beyond statistics, creating empathy legislation can't force. Judges begin questioning constitutionality of BSL. In 2023 landmark case, Ohio Supreme Court declared BSL violation of due process. Condemning living being for birth, not behavior, is fundamentally un-American, wrote Justice DeWine. Other states watch, preparing similar challenges. Legal precedent is building for federal decision that could end breed bans nationally. The pitbull effect in autistic children continues mystifying researchers. Non-verbal children for years begin speaking after bonding with pitbulls. Emerging theory. Pitbulls communicate so effectively non-verbally that they create bridge for children struggling with verbal communication. Pilot programs in 12 states show results that would make pharmaceutical companies cry. But funding remains difficult. Breed stigma contaminates even promising medical research. Explosive growth of breed ambassadors, pitbulls with special certification visiting schools, combating fear through experiential education. When children meet Blue CGC certified pitbull, who reads emotions better than adults, prejudices melt. 1 hour with Blue undoes years of negative propaganda, observes program coordinator. They've reached 100,000 children. Each goes home questioning what parents taught about dangerous dogs. The final battle will be fought not in courts or legislatures, but in hearts and minds of ordinary people. Each pitbull living normal life in neighborhood, each child growing up with gentle pitbull, each shared story of love and loyalty erodes foundation of fear. We're witnesses to historical course correction in real time. The question isn't if pitbulls will be redeemed, it's how fast and how many lives will be saved in process. In this process of historical correction, perhaps the deepest lesson comes from where we began, with Helen Keller and her pitbull Sir Thomas. A woman who couldn't see or hear chose a dog. The world today refuses to truly see or hear. The irony is painful. Helen, living in darkness and silence, saw more clearly than us with all our senses intact. She saw what mattered, character, not appearance, love, not fear, truth, not propaganda. Today, in some shelter at this exact moment, a pitbull waits. Maybe it has scars, maybe it has a past that would make you cry. But in its eyes exists the same question Sir Thomas must have asked Helen 120 years ago. Can you see who I really am? For Helen, the answer was yes. For millions today, the answer continues to be yes, despite every effort to blind us with fear. The suppressed study, the manipulated statistics, the unjust laws, all of this matters. But what matters more are the individual choices we make. Every time we don't cross the street when seeing a pitbull, every time we gently correct a myth, every time we vote for politicians who value facts over fear, every small act of moral courage adds up to unstoppable movement. Sergeant Stubby fought in a war. Petey entertained generations. Daddy taught the world about rehabilitation. Each, in their time, showed who Pitbulls really are when given a chance. Now it's our time. Our chance to choose. Will we be the generation that perpetuated injustice or the one that finally did justice? The truth about Pitbulls was never about Pitbulls. It was about us, about our capacity to let fear override compassion, prejudice replace critical thinking, social convenience, silence moral conscience. But it's also about our capacity to change, learn, grow, to admit we were wrong and do better. Maybe you've never had a dog. Maybe you're afraid of large dogs. Maybe you believed the headlines for years. That's okay. Change begins with awareness, and now you know. You know about Helen and Sir Thomas, about Sergeant Stubby and his medals, about the buried studies and lives lost to lies, about dogs waiting in shelters not for being dangerous, but for looking like our idea of danger. If this documentary opened your eyes, don't let the truth die with the video's end. Share with someone who needs to hear. Question the next sensationalist headline. Visit a shelter and meet a Pitbull personally. Vote consciously. Speak courageously. Because somewhere now a child is hugging their Pitbull best friend, completely unaware they should be afraid. And somewhere a Pitbull is being euthanized for nothing but existing with the wrong face. The story of Pitbulls in America is tragedy. But tragedies can have redemption if enough people choose to write different ending. You are one of those people. The question is, what will you do with what you now know? Because knowledge without action is silent complicity. And these dogs, who loved us through war, fame, demonization, and abandonment, deserve better than our silence. Subscribe to the channel if you believe truth matters more than fear. Comment your experience with Pitbulls, good or bad, because honest dialogue heals more than silence. And especially next time you see a Pitbull, remember, you're looking at a survivor of one of modern history's greatest injustices, a being who still chooses to love despite everything. If that doesn't deserve our respect and protection, what does? After all, if Helen Keller could see the truth without eyes, surely we can see it with ours. The question is, will we have Sir Thomas's courage to love without fear, to protect without hesitation, to be loyal to truth even when the entire world says we're wrong? Because in the end, that's the lesson of Pitbulls. Sometimes what the world fears most is exactly what it needs most. Unconditional love from those who refuse to give up on us, no matter what.